Yeah. Uh, so I'm good. My blood pressure was a little elevated, so I'm concerned about that. I wanna get back to figuring that out. I thought I had it under control, but
Uh,
um concerned about that. I wanna gotta pay attention to what I'm putting in my mouth and make sure that I'm not subconsciously stressing over stuff. So typically that's what
yeah.
um that I'm thinking of things that I'm not aware that I'm thinking of, or I'm thinking of them and not actually putting them down. And whenever I am intentional about that, then my blood pressure regulates. So,
Mm. Well, okay. Yeah, sometimes I am not as conscious all the time as I should be, as
mm.
diligently conscious as I should be. And so I get it. I get it. But did you sleep okay last night?
Oh, I did because I took a clonidine, which is a like an emergency blood pressure pill to lower the blood pressure, bring it down. So I
Mhm.
took half of one of those, and it makes me sleepy. It makes me lethargic, actually.
Mm.
So I slept really well, and actually I rested, which is a big difference for me. It was a rest. It didn't just feel like sleep.
Yeah,
It was
okay.
very restful. I dreamt. I could remember my dreams. It was good.
Oh, good, good, good. Um, that's wonderful. What is it that you want, little girl? Go to sleep. Um, so yeah, I don't know what's wrong with Miss Anxious Girl today. You gonna say hi? Just chill, okay? I see you there. I know, I know, I know. All right, so yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
Woosah.
Yesterday was so good though, working with my people. That was so good. I have weeks when it's really just really good weeks when you're just like on. Um yeah, so that last night was good. I didn't get home from work till like 8 something. So
Mm,
yeah, but it was good. Yeah, it was good. That appointment was really good. I'm glad that I went. Um
mhm.
Felt like that was a divine appointment because I
Oh,
got to pay attention to my blood pressure, and got to meet, a new doctor, and it was good. It was really good. So the only thing is I don't like to take this. So now it's just like, all right, I gotta figure. I'm determined to figure out how not to ever have to take this again. Because when she was like, "You probably need to take it," I was just like, "I don't like those because they make me feel so tired."
uh-huh.
Um, and so took it, but now I'm on a hunt to figure it out, like, whatever. I think my hydration too, she didn't mention my hydration, but I know that I've been really diligent about my hydration. So uh, I've been doing some research on how to hydrate naturally. I do a lot of waters and electrolyte powders and stuff,
Mhm.
but um, I just learned too that being intentional about my hydration before my workout is super important. I take amino acids before, but I don't like chug a lug water before I work, and that could be a big deal.
Yeah, that's what I was telling you about when I was saying that I have to, like, even in the midst of me working out, I have to drink water while I'm working out.
Mhm.
Otherwise I start feeling like like I'm dragging. And this morning I felt like I was dragging, period. It was interesting because I had been looking at my skin, and I was like thinking to myself, my skin didn't look all that great to me. And so I cut everything out on Monday. I think it was either Sunday or Monday. I cut everything out. So all the supplements that I take and all the stuff that I had been taking, I was like, let me just back off of everything so that I can reintroduce things one at a time and see what it is that might be affecting my complexion or my skin. And it could be, I changed the filters, my filters and all that stuff. So it could be any number of things. Now, for some reason, I was looking at Stephanie as I was talking, and then all of a sudden she just disappeared. And it's kind of like shocking to turn around, and I'm like looking at it like, what is just me right here, right now? So good morning to you. I know we have been, so I had problems connecting and getting on. And then once I got on, to kind of check in with Stephanie, because, yesterday we were talking about, health stuff. And so I wanted to check in and see how she was doing. And so I know that we are like way behind. It's already 10 minutes to 8, and we are just now getting started, but it's all good, y'all. The thing about what we do here is that most of the time what I think to myself is the intention is to go deep, and not necessarily to go long, but how deep do we go? And so if what we're doing is trying to like drill down on issues, then I think that that we get that done. So I can, like say for instance, I a lot of times I'm conscious of how much time I spend getting to good nuggets, right? I don't know if you're like this, but sometimes you tune into somebody's church service, like, not like mine's, right? But you tune into somebody's church service. And what they do is that there's this music portion of it, and then there's the reading of the announcements, and then they start the sermon, and the sermon kind of crawls along, and then there's a big crescendo supposedly at the end. And which means that sometimes you are investing, a lot of time to get to something that may make a point or tell you something that you didn't already know, or maybe, I don't know, but it could be that, it takes a long time to get something really good. And so one of the things that when I say we try to go deep instead of long is let's talk about this from the perspective of how do we go deep in the allotted time that we have. And so, yeah, we sit up and we jaw jack for the first, 20 minutes, 15 minutes or something, because y'all don't necessarily be up. And so then when you wake up and your attention is turned towards us, then all of a sudden it enlivens the experience, because whether we know you're here or not, whether we can see you or not, it is something about your presence that speaks to us, that intuitive thing, like spirit will say this, say that. And I know it's not for me, it's for somebody else. And so so that's how this thing works. It all works like it is supposed to do. So good morning to you. We're all in our places with bright, shiny faces, and this is the way that we start our new day. So now, since Stephanie is back, not back yet, I'm going to take this opportunity, because yesterday's paragraph that we read was so doggone juicy. I'm going to take this opportunity to read this once again, share it with you, and talk about it until she comes back in, if she pops back in, because this is good. It's good. He says here, I'm sorry, I'm so used to reading Caroline Myss, Anatomy of the Spirit, that I'm saying she, and it's Mark Wolin, a he, and it didn't start with you as the book. And it says, when we fail to realize at the time I'm sorry, she just texted me, for whatever reason, the internet will not stay connected now. My apologies. Same thing was happening to me. Okay, so that's why I rebooted. I'm sitting over here saying the same thing was happening to me. And that's why I rebooted. So look, I just sent a doggone text anyway. So, you know what? I kept thinking that it was the snow, that because it was supposed to be 3 to 5 inches by morning time by this morning, and it is not. But I think that there is still that I, look, I don't even know that the snow affects this
Right.
because mine comes in through a cable. It's only in the house that it's on Wi-Fi. It's not.
Right.
I used to have I forget what it was that I had, but the internet signal was outside of my house. It was a satellite. And so,
Okay. Yes.
so the weather really affected that.
Mm-hmm.
But Spectrum, it shouldn't affect it as much.
Right. We don't have the satellite either, but I don't know. That was just weird. And it happened the other time too. And it's like no internet. And
Yeah.
I'm interested in knowing why this time of day now.
Mm.
Because there's not like little ones, children at home working on schoolwork. I don't know. But this happened yesterday or the whatever day this week it happened, and now it happened again. But it's during the day when I'm working here from home. Like yesterday, there was no interruption. But this morning, again, around this time, like no internet signal, period.
Hmm.
So, so
Yeah.
pay attention. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but that's why I needed to reboot when I was late. So I was telling them, I said that I was going to I wanted to revisit the paragraph from yesterday because it was so good.
Okay.
So and so I had just started on that. Good morning, Ruth. How are you, dear? Fantastic Friday to you as
Fantastic Friday.
well.
Yes.
He said, what I failed to realize at the time is that when you try to resist feeling something painful, you often protract the very pain that we are trying to avoid. Doing so is a prescription for continued suffering. What you resist persists. There's also something about the action of searching that blocks us from what we seek. The constant looking outside of ourselves can keep us from knowing when we hit the target. And so we talked about this too yesterday, as far as, a number of things. We could talk about this across the board. Something valuable can be going on inside of us, but if we're not tuning in, we can miss it. And
Yes.
so that kind of applies to so much, right? So much. So whether it is this idea about what's going on, like we were just talking about what's going on with your body, right?
Yes.
But is that something deeper? Is it pointing us to something deeper?
Mm-hmm.
Know? And so it is checking in and trying to see what it is where the connection might not be being made.
Yeah, and that's the first thing I go to when my body starts acting. I'm like, okay, what's the metaphysical meaning for this? Um, and when you had read the thing about the UTI, and I was like, well, pissed off is not a thing that is for me. But then the blood pressure and strokes and stuff like that, I was just like, okay, let me figure that out. And so it really helped me to kind of pay attention to being centered, which I'm on this journey anyway. So it would make sense that um, just certain things make sense. But yeah, going within is just it is the answer for my journey.
Mhm.
And I believe that it is the answer for all of us because we've been programmed to look outside of ourselves, you know, to
We
fix.
mhm. So then so he asked the question. I got to stop saying she. This is not Carolyn Miss. This is what aren't we willing to
Willing to see.
healer prodded, provoking me to look deeper. How could I know I was in the dark? and really that's exactly where he needed to be. Sometimes it's funny, it's funny about gardening and plants. I find it amusing how when you go outside or if you're dealing with a plant, one of the first things that people tell you to do is sometimes there is too much efforting that is put into the bloom or into blossoming into something more.
The
And you
outcome.
pinch off, yeah, you need to pinch that off so that it is not sending energy in that direction so that it can grow deeper instead of upward. And so sometimes I think we lose track of that the same kind of pruning needs to happen within us. So this ability for him to not be able to look out meant that he had no choice but to look in. But when it's what are you not willing to see? He was like saying, well, I can't see nothing. What you mean? I'm in the dark. I can't see anything from in the dark. But that's exactly where we develop our insight is when we're in the dark. Because as long as we're looking at our neighbors, as long as we're looking around at other people, comparing and all of that other stuff, we are looking outward instead of inward. So one guru in Indonesia shined the light a bit brighter for me when he asked, who do you think you are not to have eye problems? That's my question, right? Who, like when I say why me, and the question is why not me? So they asked, who do you think you are not to have problems with your eyes, right? Like, why shouldn't you have this? And so, he was like, he was going on with this thing and he says, he says, perhaps Jonah's ears don't hear as well as Gerard's, and maybe Eliza's lungs aren't as strong as Greta's, and Dietrich's doesn't have walk as nearly as good as Sebastian. And he's going through all of these names, talking about all of these different problems that people could have. And, and it gets down to, why can't you have, if so-and-so can have arthritis, if this person can have high blood pressure, if this person could be suffering from erectile dysfunction, if this person can be have no sense of smell, no taste, they have COVID, their lungs aren't working right, some people can't even walk right. I mean, all of these things, senility or dementia begins to set in. If all of these people are having some kind of issue or another, why do we think we should be perfect, right? What entitles us to sit there and think that the slightest little itch or the slightest little something,
Life gone wrong.
And so he goes on to say, and no matter what my eye was doing, it no longer had to be the defining factor about how I was doing. And so I would say that to myself, no matter how these things are going on, right? If I'm looking at finances, or if I'm looking at comfort, if I'm looking at my relationship status, if I'm looking at ministry work, if whatever I'm looking at, does that have to be the defining factor of how I am doing?
Tell me more. What do you mean?
So some people get wrapped up in the outer circumstances to determine whether or not they're good.
Gonna
So
feel good.
yeah, so a lot of times when I say, because my favorite thing is when somebody asks me how I'm doing,
Fabulous.
I'm fabulous, right? I'm fabulous. And then they look at you like, well, how could you be fabulous? Do you know? Yeah, girl, come on. And people want to justify what fabulous is. Like, I wish I was fabulous. How could you be fabulous? They want to tell me about my life, right? You live in the hood, or or
What?
you ain't working. what do you mean I ain't working? Every day, right? But not their definition of working, like not
Right, right.
their definition
Hmm.
of how I ought to be doing.
Hmm.
And so people have judgments and stuff. How could you be fabulous? You don't have a husband. How could you be fabulous when your car is a is how many years old, right? 20 years old. How could you be fabulous if, and they got all of these things as if fabulous means that I've got to be out there doing something different than what I'm doing. Damn it, if I say I'm fabulous, I'm fabulous. Because
Right. Yeah. Oh, I have never. I don't even know what I would do if someone questioned my amazing response. Like, I don't even, I know I probably would give it no energy, but I've never had anyone say, "How could you be amazing?"
oh, you know what? I'm gonna tell you how bad it gets, right?
Oh my goodness, Sandra, I have never
It's
had
not
anyone.
about me, not about me. I had a friend of mine who this woman, there's a song by Karen Drucker that I love. Um, money is coming to me easily and effortlessly. Money is coming to me. I got money, money
Mhm.
is coming to me. And it's a chant. It's the chant over and over again. And so I'm like singing this song and everything. And he looks at me and he was like, where you get that from? And I was telling him, I said, it's a song by Karen Drucker. This knucklehead wanted to look up and see her net worth, trying to figure out if she had actually had some
Oh,
money
I think I remember you saying that to
yeah,
me.
to justify if she should be singing the song or not. Like, like, like she couldn't possibly, you know. It's almost as if, why can't we take people at their word? It is not the circumstances that determines whether or not I'm happy or not.
Your happiness, exactly.
And so I love that so many people, especially these gurus. I mean, it's so funny because the gurus put out these books saying that happiness is a choice that we make,
Every
right?
day. Mhm.
And if we are simply allowing circumstances to dictate how we feel, then we will always be at the effect of the circumstances,
Exactly.
never in control of what goes on.
Yes. My
You know,
little one, my son, he's an adult now, 35, but I remember when he was, I want to say he might have been in sixth grade. No, maybe he was in middle school. And he woke up one Saturday and he said, there will be peace in this house all day today. I am declaring peace in this house all day. And so he was kind of fussy. He fussed all the time. So that Saturday we were going about our day doing our little Saturday thing. And then of course we call him Mr. Grumpy Pants, would come upstairs and be fussing about something. And Steph said, I said there will be peace. And then Rob went into formation. He didn't say anything back, but that taught me such a great lesson that we can declare the mood we're going to be in.
yeah,
And we all just kind of went along with the program, and it was just so cute. And I remind him of that when he is out of peace. Be like, you have authority to declare your happiness and your peace. But he was like so young, and he just woke up and was like, that's what we're doing today. Not finish the grumpy pants. We're gonna, I don't care what he brings to the table, we're gonna have peace today. And
right.
it was just so powerful. But we do
It
get to make that
is.
choice.
Uh-huh. It
We get to
is
make
so
that choice.
powerful. And I used to tell people, this was one of the lessons that I used to do is set your intentions for the week at the beginning of the week, right? So if on Fridays you want to have a gregarious day, determine that on Sunday or set it up on Thursday. I am going to be, I'm gonna be organized, I'm gonna be precise, concise. I'm going to and set your intentions, write it down, and then forget about it. Forget about it. And the wonderful thing is when you go back and you look at whatever it is, if you set up your day to be humorous, or if you set up your day to be have a day of gratitude, or if you set up your day to have a day of generosity, even before that day gets there, you could write it down someplace and then go back and check and be like, "Woo, what was that? It was right on point."
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, we got the ability to set our intentions. So so the factors of life, right? You find people who are funny, and it doesn't matter if they are laying on a gurney and being rushed off to the operating room. If that's who they are, if that's their character, it's still present then. They say that those tough times bring out the reality of who people are. And sometimes you will, who was that? Was that, it seems like I just read an article about somebody who at their house, they were using, I forget who that was, some politician, or was it a minister who was using the N word, everybody in the family. So somebody in the family pulls out a phone and records what was going on. And so then the article is that this lady was saying, it was out of character for me, please, don't draw anything about what was heard on this thing. And they were saying they were saying that it wasn't video, it was audio that was leaked to the press, the audio of what had happened and what she was saying. And then all of a sudden she would turn around and say, "Oh, that's not me." Like, oh,
Oh. Well,
okay.
it's arrogant for you to argue with reality, according to what this book said. And I agree. I mean, it is what it is. And
Yeah.
and look, why are you
Uh-huh.
here, blind eyes? Why are you here? Blood
Mhm.
pressure. And
Yeah.
who was that? Who was let me see. I don't want to whoever said it, because I know this person may not have been the first person who said it, but I think the first time I heard it was from Les Brown. Is like, well, if it's not me, then who would I want this to be happening to?
Mm.
Who
Yeah.
would you want to be blind? Who would you give this away to?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I told you about that. My mother asked that question one time. Because I remember all the time I wanted to have something, I wanted a new bike. And how come I can't have a new bike? Well, I got your brother's bikes this year. I'll get yours next year, right? And I'm like sitting up there, I'm mad because I want to, why can't you? And she was like, "I can't buy everybody bikes at the same time." And I said, "Well, why you have so many kids?" And my mother, she had this way, she stopped and turned around with her hand on her hip. And she was like, "Who would you have me send back?"
Hmm.
Like, you just shove a kid back in there. She was like,
Wow.
"You had me send back." And all of a sudden I started crying. Nobody. Like like how do you determine who doesn't deserve to be here, or who you don't want in your life?
Wow.
Good morning,
Put
Everett.
that right into perspective. Good morning, Everett.
Uh, he says, "Have a fabulous, fantastic, fun-filled Friday." Yes,
Yes, might as well. It's cold outside.
yes, baby, it's cold outside. I have to go out today though.
I do too.
Yeah. So he said he talks about how he had to spend some time in meditation, blindfold, earplugs in, all of this stuff, meditating on a cushion. And he said, they would give him rice and water. That was it. And he was like, no sleeping, no getting up, getting down, all of that stuff. He had to ask to go to the bathroom. It was grueling. So he went through a lot of stuff, right? And here's the thing, because I did the
I thought
Vipassana.
about you when I read that.
Yeah, I did that. And a lot of times what we do is we think we go through so much stuff. It's like, oh, the suffering and oh, the misery, as if it is the suffering and the misery, according to us, that causes the enlightenment. And
Mhm.
it doesn't.
Mhm.
This is how he kept talking about how he had come to know himself and his mind and all of this stuff, and he thought that he had arrived.
Mhm.
So it reminds me of this thing of so yeah, we do get to watch our mind. We do get to watch how things work. We get to a point where you get really intimate with who you are. But is it the arrival destination, right?
What
So
do you
he
mean?
so 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 like, say for instance, one of my favorite songs, this guy starts off the song and he says, I heard the call and now I'm following my footsteps every day, right?
Mhm.
And so he says, it seems so long to where I get to where I'm going. So he heard the call. He was called to the ministry. And so okay, now he's going to be a minister, but he's got to go through steps. Like, he felt like he had to go to a theological seminary. He got to go through this, he got to go through that. And he's sitting up there saying, am I ever going to arrive, or am I ever going to get to what it is that I'm supposed to get to? And it's like, those things are the stuff that society says
Outside of me.
that I need.
Mhm.
But but when you answer the call, you got to step into your truth. You don't wait for somebody to give you, what, now I knight you. Now all of a sudden it doesn't come from out there.
Mhm.
These are the steps I'm taking for my growth. These are the steps I'm taking for my good. Right. And so it's always this thing that we're always looking for somebody else to give us approval. We're looking for somebody else to substantiate what it is that is, and it's not an outward thing. But now the interesting thing is that he was sitting here and he was saying, but I've done all this work, I've done this and I've done that and all of that stuff, but he hadn't been transformed.
Mhm. He
So
recognized the stuff, he paid attention to it. People, I mean, that's a lot of us can recognize the madness, can recognize our shortcomings, can recognize where we have our weaknesses, but then to sit in it and celebrate life gone bad or wrong. And then I think the question is, and so what now?
right. So now here is what I will say, right? Here's what I'll say, because this is the way that I operate. Uh, Good morning, Erica. And no, you
Good
haven't
morning, Erica.
heard your destination
Is
yet.
there a place? Is there such a place as destination? I don't know if it's reality, but we'll find out on this journey, I suppose.
but here's the thing for me. I am not one to wait for permission to do anything,
Hmm.
right? And what I tell people all the time is my life has been a series of forward falling,
Hmm.
right? And so that means for me that I keep stumbling forward. And I may not be ultimately, I know I'm not ultimately where I'm supposed to be, or I haven't achieved ultimately what I'm supposed to be. But I know that I am not waiting for somebody else to give me permission or even to deny me the permission that I need. It is in the doing that I learn. It's in the doing my becoming.
Mm-hmm.
So when he was sitting here and he was talking about this stuff, what he was having the problem, he was going through all of this stuff, and he says having vision problem is a great metaphor for life, and it truly is.
Yes.
It, and we got to look at what our metaphors are, right? What's the metaphor?
That's
And
the same thing we learned about just the symbolic living. Living life from a symbolic place is, I think, is the added dimension. If we're living two-dimensional, when you start to view life from a symbolic place and become aware of what you're resonating on the inside, sadness, happiness, whatever your fear language is, I think that adds an additional dimension to our lives. And it I think it leads us to a fifth. In the meantime, if we allow ourselves to pay attention to symbols, we allow ourselves to pay attention to our fear language, and we allow ourselves to determine and declare the emotional, what's going to be my emotional set point to today, and
mm,
then start practicing that, and not shrink down and what everybody else expects us to feel. You ain't supposed to be all happy all the time. Like that cannot be reality for you. And I think that that's a part of the I don't know, because I don't know what I feel about getting somewhere. I don't know if there's anywhere for me to get.
yeah, yeah, it's yeah. It, and it's sometimes I just think about like being, just
My
be.
biggest desire in the
And
whole world.
and and, and if today I'm being better than I was, or being different, or being more, if I'm going deeper today than I did yesterday, then
Mm-hmm,
great, you know.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it's just recognizing that, you know that this is unfolding. I'm not,
Yes, I like that.
it's not a rival point. It is just, it's an unfoldment, and every single day I get to show up and do what I do and see how that works out. And some days is great, and some days it's like, Everett says he basks in the glory of his failures, for that
Mm.
is where his true learning is manifest. And
Yeah,
so
oh my God, yes.
that is so true, because that failing at least means that you tried. And so
Right,
people don't even get to the try.
right. So if I'm blind, if you want to call that a failure, then the symbolism for it is whatever it is. But then there's this appreciation. My ears are even greater in tune. Now my senses, the ones that are operable, they are now heightened. What is that for? Like that's the question to the universe. So wow, what do I need? What? Why? Why now do I get to have these senses heightened? This
Right.
one has taken a step back for whatever reason, but instead we go on the journey that he went on. Like, what's wrong with me? This happened? Why did this? Why am I blind? We
Yeah. Mhm.
focus on life gone wrong and forget the appreciation or the symbolism of the come from that
But
so-called bad experience, if you will.
yeah, but that's just it, the so-called bad experience. Because without that experience, he may not be having this deep
Right.
vision quest that he's going through. And so to be thankful in the moments of blindness, just like he was, maybe that's exactly what he needed in
Mm-hmm.
order for him to get off the path that he was on, the path about, his business and his networking and his money and his family and all of that stuff. He had to totally divest in all of that stuff in order to go on this particular quest, which was great. I mean, I don't know. I see this as a wonderful adventure. I mean, it's an
It
adventure.
is. It
I,
is.
I
And I
bet.
hope we could like help somebody, like, well, I'll speak for myself, see it as an adventure, because at the end of the story, we don't even know how the story ends.
You, you know what? It's interesting because sometimes I have a tendency to be so like, I don't know if I want to say irreverent, but I say to people sometimes, like, if you need to heal or if you're sick, it's like, what wouldn't you do? What wouldn't you try in order to get better?
Mm-hmm.
And I know I have said that to people, and I think that they get offended because they try based on what they know.
Right.
Today's lesson from A Course in Miracles is it is the past that I see, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the past. I'm just seeing the past. And what we've done in the past is we've gone to the doctor's office and we fill ourselves up with all these doctor's appointments, all of this medication, and we go home and we hope that the hocus pocus that the doctor told us is what will cause our healing.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder if that is not about what the doctor says. Maybe we need to take off our shoes and go walking in the woods,
Yes.
or go over to India and see some guru, or do whatever. Like if I'm gonna die, if I'm about to experience this, I'm gonna go to the ends of the earth to make sure I've exhausted every possibility before I say I'm giving up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this brother was doing here. He was just like, you know what? I'm gonna go and I need to go see this guru. And I'm sitting outside of a door for 72 hours. 72 hours. I'm sitting in line waiting to see some guy because this guy has got my answer. And then when
And
this,
he did.
yeah, and you know
Yes.
what? And it's so funny because when he said after he waited all that time, could you imagine waiting 72 hours in a line to see somebody, right? I don't know if it was 72 hours, but
I
he
think
waited.
that number is significant that he said that.
Yeah,
I
I don't
feel that way. I
yeah.
don't know.
It was,
Mm-hmm.
but he had to, it made it sound like he had to wear special clothes, sit in a line, you sitting there with all these other people that's waiting in line. And then he finally gets in there and he says that, he says he was expecting this man to acknowledge all that he had been through to this point. Like, like, dude, you have been meditating, you've been fasting, you've been doing this, you've been doing that. He thought he was going to get a high five, attaboy, a like or something from this guy. And he said that guy looked right through him as if he wasn't standing there and said, go home.
Go home. Go home, Dorothy. I love that.
Home and deal with your mama and your
Your
daddy.
dad.
Go home. And he was like,
So rich.
and, but he was, you
What?
is that what you got to say?
I'm
I've been sitting out there. I've been, do you know what I've been through for the last 3, 4 years? And I get here and all you can say to me is go home? Oh
every
man,
time
that's
I
like,
think of it, I just get excited.
yes. Let me tell y'all this because I never forget this happened to me. My brother used to have this Kawasaki motorcycle,
Mm.
Kawasaki 350 or something like that. Anyway, they taught me how to ride the motorcycle. And so I would get on there and I would ride, right? And usually it was like I just go around a couple of blocks and come right back and whatever. It was a pretty big bike. But now when I sat on the bike, when I go to put my feet down, my feet did not touch the ground, right? And so it was like I was on my tippy toes and I was constantly like tottering back and forth. But I wasn't tall enough to get my feet to touch the ground. Anyway, one day I go and I was like, I go out on a motorcycle and I go down miles and I, fly down miles and then I go down there to the end and then I turn around and I'm gonna come back up. But this time I ran into a stoplight. And so
Oh,
I had to stop, and I'm sitting there at the light, and now I got to teeter totter back and forth. And do you know that damn bike fell over? The bike fell over on its side, and I am not strong enough to pick the bike up.
oh.
I turned the bike off, and I'm just standing up there like, okay, I'm in the middle of the street with a motorcycle that's laying on its side. I was so like, oh my gosh. And so this dude pulls up behind me in this truck. He gets out and he comes over there and he picks up the motorcycle and he rolls it over to the sidewalk, puts the kickstand down, and he says, now go home, little girl.
You done stole your father's bike.
I felt this tall. Put it on the sidewalk. It's a full-size motorcycle. He puts it on the sidewalk and tells me to go home, little girl. I was just like, whoa, dude. I don't know.
Wow.
I would tell you that's the last time I rode that bike
I'm
someplace.
sure.
That's the last time I rode that bike somewhere. But I was so embarrassed. And it wasn't even about how many people saw me. It was, because it could have been just a few people that saw what happened, but it was like, I felt like, oh. So
Caught.
he was told to go home. And
Mhm.
so he said he was livid. He said, my body
shook.
anger. Clearly, he had misread me. I no longer needed my parents. I had outgrown
them. Isn't that a statement to make?
them.
Well,
I had outgrown them. Now we could park right here. We could park right here for a week.
yes.
I had outgrown them.
From my parents.
What does that mean? You know, I think that for at a certain point as we're growing up, the world, by the world standards, some people will look at our parents and say, oh, but they've only got an 8th grade education. Or they only made this much amount of money. Or they worked, punched the clock all of their life. And by a worldly perspective, people, when they measure themselves, he was thinking he was up here and his parents was down there. He had outgrown them.
Kind of, I no longer need their influence or what they brought to the table, but what he failed to realize is that while he was there with them, he didn't get some stuff too. He rejected who they were. We do it when we become adults sometimes, or even teenagers, especially at adolescent age.
They're so much more smarter. They are so
much to reject. Yeah, we start to reject the notion that our parents have any value, which is amazing to me. But yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah. It's 8:35, just so we are clear. I think.
Yes, and so I would love to park here.
Yeah, this is good.
Wait, let's just hold it here, because I want to really to kind of drill down on this a little bit. This idea that we can outgrow our parents, y'all. Is it even about that? Right? So we're not, it's one thing if you're talking about on an external level, right? Um, so yes, one thing that if we're talking on an external level, what I'm going to leave y'all with though today is that this idea about Jesus has had been depicted in a lot of different ways. We talk about in Germany there is the Black Madonna, right? And as a matter of fact, I have a picture of a Black Jesus, but that's not really what is significant about some of the depictions, especially of the baby Jesus. What I've found particularly interesting is that when we talk about Jesus and the position that he holds, this one particular image of Jesus showed Jesus sitting on his mother's lap. Now, we can think of a lap, like I'm always talking about this, a lap doesn't even appear until somebody wants to sit on it.
Mm-hmm.
But in the picture, what you see is that the lap is the throne upon which a king sits. So that mother is the foundation upon which he stands.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
And sometimes we forget, we think, it's just a lap, but that's the throne upon which we all sit as children until you no longer need to be there. So, yeah, like Queen Gigi, right? Until you no longer need to be there, that is the throne. So for us to look down on it or try to demean it without that, where is our foundation? So this idea about outgrowing something, we're going to revisit that.
Yeah, this is good.
On Monday.
This is so good. Save a life.
I'm the throne upon which you sit, damn it. Can you see that? I am the throne. And as a matter of fact, the way that they depicted the story of Jesus, it just bypassed men altogether, Mary was the mother through which he came through the virgin birth. And so, what is that saying? It's like, so yeah, everybody gets up and starts, I was raised by a single parent. Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, shit, we all need each other. And this is, it takes two, it takes all of us. But when you get down to it, yes, I think it's interesting. So yeah, anyway, we'll talk about this on
good.
Monday.
Yes. I'm holding my peace right now.
Yeah. So yeah, I will not be here tomorrow. Usually I do Saturdays, but yeah, I am not going to be on here tomorrow. I have a meeting, and so I was like thinking to myself, like, why I've gotten, these last 3 Saturdays I hadn't done it. So I'm still contemplating if I'll continue to pick up on Saturdays or not. But tomorrow I will not be.
Okay.
I don't think so. I'm kind of like,
gosh.
Yeah. Because I don't like to move forward in the book without Stephanie. So I don't know if I'll be here tomorrow or not. If I come on tomorrow, it will be to record a podcast.
Okay.
Instead of doing this. And it's always nice to have people. So I'll see.
Yeah.
I could do that in the morning. That would be juicy. Oh, that would be juicy. So y'all, look, never mind. If I'm on here, y'all see me here, great. And if you don't, great. Either way, great, right?
Yes.
So have an amazing day.
Have an amazing, fantastic Friday, everyone.
Yeah, fun-filled, fantastic,
Fun-filled, yes.
all of that Friday.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you.
So what are you talking about on my podcast? My podcast, I'm doing a new podcast where it connects race and health together. So the how racism impacts our health. And so, while I have my radio show that comes on Thursdays, I need to, this podcast is something that will be housed outside of the radio show, that I use the radio show to kind of point people to the podcast. And this is the one that I'm doing, for the idea stream piece that I'm doing. So if I'm establishing a day of the week in order to do that, it would be fun to do it on Saturday morning, because I'm already like in that like Saturday, that well 7:30 to 8:30 energy, and so I could use that time in order to do that. It's a little different, however it is the same stuff that I talk about anyway. It's just a little different, and with a different emphasis, because I need to tie it to race and racism. So yeah, that could be what I do. Yeah. So you like that. Yay, good, good, good. So yeah, so anyway, I gotta be out of the house. It's still snowing. I'm gonna be over. I'm going to get something done to my hair. So I love that though. I get to, have somebody do my hair. It'd be nice if I could go and just make it a pamper day, like a spa day, a whole spa day. That would be so beautiful, to go to a spa, get a massage, get my toes done, get my hair done, all of that good stuff. That would be wonderful. However, yeah, it's still snowing. So anyway, yes, I'm saying yes to that. Yes, I can do that. But am I? That's the question. All right, so till tomorrow then. I think I've gotten a plan. I'm excited about that. All right, so y'all, I love you. Thank you for being here. And then, we'll pick up on this book on Monday. It Didn't Start With You by Mark Wolin. But tomorrow I will be talking about racism and health. All right, so blessings to you. Have a fun-filled, fabulous, fantastic Friday. All right, and do something yummy, even if it's just drinking a cup of creamy hot chocolate with a shot of rum chata in there or something, but do something wonderful for you. I don't know what wonderful for you means. It could be getting a foot rub. It could be going to get, something decadent to eat. I don't know, but do something. If it's just a chocolate covered strawberry, do something wonderful for you today. All right. Yeah. Love you. See ya. All right. Friday is my day. Sarika did that, got me that song. Friday is my holiday.